Right, this is Thomas Lyons for Boxing Fans TV, and I'm delighted to be joined by world title challenger Rachel Ball after her triumph at the recent Matchroom Fight Camp. First and foremost, Rachel, how are you?
I'm really good, thank you. I'm good. I'm very excited. I've had sparring this morning, and it's the weekend, so happy days.
It's been a bit of a whirlwind for, I suppose, everyone these last few months, but especially for you. Your career seems to have really injected a lot of life and a lot of pace, obviously, after Fight Camp. And now with the recent announcement that you're going to be facing Ebanie Bridges for the world title. So just kind of sum up your emotions at the moment.
Oh God, you know what? I can't even explain it. I can't explain it. I'm just really excited. It's daft. I love fighting November time because then it's Christmas and I can enjoy Christmas. So I'm just overexcited for everything. I'm excited to meet the rest of the girls there and be back with the Matchroom lot and get back in the bubble and have fun. So I'm just excited.
So we'll come on to talk about that in a minute, but let's rewind a few weeks back. Matchroom Fight Camp, I suppose, Eddie Hearn had to put together some sort of extravagant event to appeal to the mass audience that obviously Matchroom have kind of built up over the years. Just talk to me about the overall experience, the bubble, the people inside, just everything really.
Well, I mean, preparing to go in the bubble is like a nightmare because you've just got to remember everything because you know that you can't just pop to the shops if you forget something. So it's a bit hectic really getting ready to get in the bubble. But once you're there, you're greeted by security, you get a little wristband, you go in, you have your COVID test, and then you're in the room and that's it, like for what, 24 hours or something. So it's crazy. It just goes all quiet then and you can't really talk to anyone or go anywhere. But for me that was just lovely because I could just have a really good chill out. And I think I got there on the Monday or the Tuesday, and because I wasn't at work and things like that, like I found my energy levels were just like through the roof. And having been around people all day during the week was great for me. So it was great. I could go and have a little chat and a little mingle, and then I could come back and just watch some Netflix and chill out. So I loved it. Everyone was really, really friendly, and I had a really great experience.
You think that kind of played to your advantage, not having to sort of, the pressure of selling tickets, just being able just to sit back and just wait for the weigh-in, the press conference, and then just get straight down to business on the Saturday with obviously, a lot of attention and hype around Shannon with this fight. You seem to just kind of be calm and cool throughout the whole fight week. So do you think that was kind of an advantage for you going into the fight?
Yeah. I mean, people don't understand how stressful it is trying to sell tickets, and I have had to put my own money in just so I can fight before. So it's a massive, massive relief. And I was calm all week. I think my kind of the way I think about it, my emotions were kind of just nicely simmering on a stove, and they were just nicely simmering. And then after the fight, kind of it all came out at that point. Yeah.
How I suppose for boxers, boxing under a different environment, not having the crowds, not having the energy with like an arena or a stadium. Did you find that you were kind of able just to stick to the game plan and get through the 6 rounds? Obviously, dropping Shannon in the first round, that kind of gave you then that boost, kick on and win the rest of that round, and I suppose kind of win convincingly on the scorecards. Was that an ideal thing for you, not having the crowd, just being able to stick to the game plan?
I think it definitely helped in this fight because I was coming in as the underdog, as somebody who wasn't as known. Yeah. So I knew that whoever was judging it, which happened to be the ref, that he wouldn't be swayed by the crowds and the kind of the pressure from the crowds. So I think that worked in my favour. So there was no kind of influence, and you could hear all of the shots that were being landed and things like that. You could hear everything. I could hear my corner really well, and I think Shannon in their corner could hear my corner as well. So it's like it's a lot more psychological as well. It's kind of mind games as well, and it's a very interesting fight compared to being with the crowds.
Would you say that was your biggest learning test as a professional, being able to just stick to like a tactical fight?
I think like I've had some really hard fights, and when I fought FTG Kathapuli, like I was knocked down in like the second round, and I had to get back up and really get myself together. So I've always had difficult fights and learning fights, but it was very much, we had a plan going into the Shannon fight, and there were some things that were a massive learning curve. Like I don't think I really capitalised after the knockdown. Sorry. So it was those kind of things. That's more of a learning curve, really. And obviously you can't feed off the crowds. And I think had the crowds been there, I would have fed off it more. And I can't leave that down to, I can't rely on the crowds to push me. I've got to just be in there myself. And it was a massive learning curve. I think I kept trying to throw the same shot that I knew had landed and had knocked her down, whereas I should just fought. Sometimes I think too much sometimes. So it was a massive learning curve in terms of kind of game plan and experience really in the ring. It's a very different kind of learning fight really for me.
Well, it's definitely one of the major sort of stories of Fight Camp. You're coming in sort of relatively unknown to like the wider boxing fraternity, but getting that win, and now looking ahead to a really good showdown with Ebanie Bridges on a world title triple header. So I mean, it couldn't have probably worked out any better before Christmas kind of comes in.
I know. I didn't expect it. Like Eddie was saying, we'll get Rachel a title, but I don't like to set my heart on things when people say things, and I just try to take things as they come, really. So it's massive. It's so exciting.
So in terms of like moving forward now, has Eddie kind of presented anything to you about sort of a full-time deal, or obviously hoping, God willing, you come through the fight with Ebanie? Is there potential unifications down the line? Has he kind of mentioned anything about just mapping out your next, say, 2 or 3 fights on the big stage, the big platform?
Yeah, but he has come back with a kind of a fight deal with us, and I think it's going to be more of a kind of take it on a fight by fight basis as to what happens next. To be honest, I think the Courtenay rematch will happen at some point, but I don't know when. That's up to Eddie really, and obviously Sky Sports, they're a part of who they want to see. That's the kind of demand, I suppose. They say, we want to see this fighter, that fighter. So I'm just going to have to wait and see, really.
It'll be great for British boxing if you can go get a world title on the triple header bill, and then maybe defend it as a voluntary against Shannon or even another upcoming British fight. It'll be great for the sport to really see women's boxing flourish. And obviously now you're part of an esteemed umbrella of great fighters, the likes of Katie Taylor, Chantel Cameron, who just won the WBC world title. So it's looking healthy for sport in general moving into 2021.
Yeah, definitely. It's just kind of, women's boxing has really just exploded, and all it really took was for a massive promoter such as Matchroom going, we want the women on, we'll get as many on as we can. Really, I really think they've embraced women's boxing. I know a lot of the small hall promoters like BCB, they've tried to do everything they can for us, and they continue to do that. So I can't thank them enough for that. So it's an amazing time to be. I don't want to keep referring to it as women's boxing because it is boxing, but what I mean is in terms of getting more women onto the boxing scene, really.
100%. And I think with your win especially, it's kind of sent out a strong message for local amateur gyms, and just to really push more boxers to come through and just kind of take a jump at something. You never know, opportunities might come about. So I think you're a key prime example of that coming to fruition.
Yeah, definitely. I think what, I could have made a choice really earlier on this year when lockdown happened. I could have just not really worked out, done my training, and I could have got fat, but I didn't. And that choice was how I've got to be where I am now. And for me, I think if I can get to where I am now, anyone can do it. I really do believe that, and I appreciate that as a female I've been able to kind of be accelerated up to these big opportunities as well. But I truly believe if you do work hard, good things will eventually happen. Yeah.
So how long before sort of when fight camp finished was the phone call to say that you were going to be fighting for the world title? And sort of how happy are you to be able to have landed that shot so quickly? Sort of since.
I think, well, obviously, because there was Fight Camp 4 week after I was on, so obviously I wasn't expecting to hear anything off, that week because I knew Eddie would be busy. But I think it was after Fight Week 4 that the phone calls started to go to my manager Errol, and then we were kind of saying, oh, we'll let this option, we'll let that option. And the fight with Ebony kind of came out of nowhere, to be honest with you. There was no inkling that was going to be the fight that I was going to be having. My coach called me. He was like, Errol's just rang me, WBA world title, and I was like, right, okay, like, oh my god. And then he was like, guess who against? I was like, I don't know, Shannon probably. Talks of the rematch, and he was like, no, Ebanie Bridges, and I was like, like, I think I probably swore at him a little bit because I was just like, no way, so it took me by surprise, big time. It really did. So when people are saying, oh, I'm really surprised at this match, I'm not telling me, yeah, I didn't see it coming either. She's the other side of the world, and I didn't know whether she'd managed to get a shot fighting, whether, I know she wanted to fight either in the UK or America or something, but I didn't know how realistic that would be with COVID and everything, really.
Yeah, but again, I suppose it brings more eyes onto the fight. Obviously, Ebony being from Australia, you kind of kicking on with your career and building your profile in the UK. So again, it's like an international kind of contest where like both sides of the world are coming together, and it's giving more viewership to the fight, and obviously a massive triple header bill to be sharing with the likes of Katie and the rest.
Yeah, it's, I think when you have international bouts, it really kind of adds to the credit of the match, really, because I try to put this in a way that makes sense. Obviously in the UK we have really, really strong prospects in boxing, but it doesn't necessarily mean that there's two world champions who live 2 hours apart in the whole of the world, so it's good I think it's good for when you do have these international matchups, and that's what we did in the kickboxing. We fought all over the world and all different opponents from here, there and everywhere. I think it's good, really.
Yeah. And you did an Instagram live the other day, and I did sort of ask how much have you seen of Ebony? Just kind of go into a bit more detail, like have you seen much of her? What sort of you expecting her sort of strengths? What do you think she's going to bring to the table come fight night?
Well, I know she's a very aggressive fighter. I know she is strong. She used to be a bodybuilder, so they're incredibly dedicated. They're on point with their dieting, and they make weight very well. And she's obviously going to be very strong. So I'm expecting that from the off, to be honest. I have managed to see one of the fights that was in the USA. And obviously I've seen quite a bit of her on Instagram and stuff over the years when she's doing pads and stuff like that.
Yeah. And do you think with this fight that your power is going to be a bit underestimated? Because obviously with the knockdown in the Shannon fight, maybe people might have not thought that you carried, big knockout power. But do you think in this fight that your power will show, having sort of built up that experience from fight camp and being able to sit down on your shots a lot more?
Yeah, I think and that's something we're learning to do. Obviously in kickboxing, you don't really sit down on your shots because you get kicks in the face. So yeah, that's something that I'm trying to adapt more, and I'm still adapting to the boxing game. And I fully appreciate that because I'm basically really lanky. I don't look very, very muscly or anything like that. So when people see me on the scales, they're like, "Oh, look, she's actually got some muscles." So I'm pretty, massive and physically strong or anything like that. So, but saying that, I have had knockdowns in my kickboxing, both I'm a kickboxing and my boxing career. So, no, I haven't had a stoppage. I haven't had a KO yet on my career, but I have knocked people down and they have hit the canvas. Yeah. So I think that's something that maybe has been overlooked, and I think people say that, like, oh, you know, you threw that left hook in at Shannon, it was just a lucky shot. Well, you know what? I've trained for 8 weeks, and if it just takes a reaction shot that does actually land and puts her on the canvas, that was part of my training. Part of my training wasn't to look out for every single knockout shots. The knockout shots come when you're not expecting them.
Yeah.
You know, when you're just flowing. So, you know, when people have kind of put my, I don't know, so how am I trying to explain it? You know, overlooked it and said, oh, you know, it's just a bit of a fluke. That wasn't a fluke. Like, I'm a trained athlete. That's what I'm trying to do, you know, and just because I wasn't looking for it doesn't discredit it anymore, really.
Well, I don't know what other people were watching, but that definitely wasn't a lucky punch, because you know, the way you were able to pivot and then throw the left hook. I mean, again, like you said, it's the shots that you don't see that do the most damage, and I think that kind of was one of those shots where, you know, Shannon kind of dropped her guard and you just caught her straight on the button. So I mean, people can say what they want. There's always going to be, you know, haters, and there's going to be people that undermine you as a boxer. But you know what? Let them do it. And I mean, the knockout's coming. The knockout is coming.
Yeah, definitely. I believe so, and especially, you know, I have done the 10-round fights. I have done the 8-round fights. You know, Ebanie hasn't gone past the 6-round fight, so it's a whole another 4 rounds on top of that.
Yeah.
And that's going to be my game. You know, I am very naturally quite an endurance athlete, and I can go on forever and ever. You know, so it's very much going to be my strength in this fight, I think, really.
So is it going to be very much sort of the same preparation as the last fight, just with like a little bit more intensity, or are you guys changing anything particularly in camp to prepare for this fight?
I mean, I've always worked really hard in my training, always have, and I've been quite independent with like my morning sessions and stuff, and then going to the boxing gym at night. But for this camp, and especially after that win, it just gave me a massive kick up the arse, and I was like, right, what can I do differently? What do I need to do? What haven't I been doing? I've been doing track sessions with runners who know quite a bit about running. I've been doing 2 strength and conditioning PTs every week, which I hadn't been doing before. And I'm just trying to do everything I can, just everything I haven't done before. I want to do it. You know, I'm all about leaving no stone unturned for this fight, and that's the way it's got to be. So, you know, it's got to pay dividends on the night. It's, you know, it's got to come together. It can't be for nothing, you know, all this hard work.
And there was a few other domestic title fights sort of in that matchroom sequel, with obviously Terry Harper defending her world title. Did you manage to catch that fight with her and Natasha Jonas?
Yeah, I did watch it. Yeah.
What was your thoughts on the scorecards?
Watching it, as I was watching it, I thought that Tasha had just got it, but it was a very, very close fight. I think if I was to make a really, really informed decision about it, I would need to sit down with a pen and paper and mark off every round, kind of thing. Because I'm rubbish at remembering what rounds and who won stuff. So I'd need to analyse it. You know, if people say, you know, what is your opinion on this fight? Unless I've studied it thoroughly, I will say, you know, I need to look back on it just to make sure, because, you know, I don't want to discredit someone just because I perceived it slightly differently on the night, really. So, you know, on the night, I thought Tasha just got it, but it had been a very close fight, and I admire both girls a lot.
Yeah, and I suppose that was a kind of, again, another high intensity competitive fight, similar to the Katie Taylor fight against Serrano. Again, another close fight. So I kind of think it's a positive that these fights are close at this stage, and then, you know, there's potential matchups with other fighters that again are going to bring the same competition. So I suppose all competition is healthy competition moving forward.
It is. It absolutely is, because it's getting people talking. And that's what we need. It's just for people to talk. And, you know, some people have said that the decision with Courtenay was controversial. You know, my coach the next day was like, Rachel, I've watched it 6 times. You definitely won. I was like, oh, okay. You know, but you know, whenever people are talking about it, it's only good. It's only good because it makes the promoters, it makes people like Sky Sports want to put us on there more. So keep talking about it, because it does us all the world of good, very much so.
Yeah, and I'm just going to come briefly on to sort of, the commentary. A lot of media outlets were saying about how the commentary during fight camp was a little bit sort of biased towards some fighters. And I mean, in your fight, it was kind of like they were saying that Courtenay was kind of clawing her way back into the fight. And a lot of people then thought, no, you were walking away with it. So what was your kind of overall assessment of, I mean, have you been able to watch the fight back with the commentary, or have you not sort of looked too much into it?
Yeah, I did. And I have to be in the right mindset, to be honest, when I watch my fights back, because I'm very, very critical about myself. Like, I am a very, the very smiley and, always laughing and stuff kind of person. But when it comes down to my overall performances and when I'm in the gym, like, that's when I'm the most serious I ever am, except for work. So I'm very, very critical of myself. So I have to be in the right mindset. But I did watch it with the commentary. And you know what? I understand. It's boxing is a business. Shannon was, the matchroom girl. So she needs to be promoted by them. So I understand from Macklin's point of view. Essentially, his job is to big her up. I get that. I'd love for everything to be equal. I'm a massive person about equality and stuff. So I try not to get to think about it too much, but I know a lot of people were really, really criticising Macklin about the commentary. Even when I knocked it down, they were still saying, "Oh, look, Shannon's doing this, Shannon's doing that," and people were like, "Rachel's the person on the floor," So it is what it is, isn't it? But what? Even before I watched the fight, when people were saying this, that, and the other one, and I just said to him, you know what, turn the commentary off and see what fight you see. So I think it's good, really, in some ways, if people can watch it with the commentary and then watch it without the commentary, and just see if they see a different fight without the commentary on. That would be my advice. And you know what, even watching mine with the commentary and without the commentary, even being in them myself, I saw a different fight without the commentary on. I really did. So yeah, it's crazy. I don't think we realise how much of an impact the commentary does have upon our kind of bias, and how much it feeds into our kind of subconscious when we're watching things. It's quite interesting, really.
And especially when there's no crowds, it's kind of like a filler, isn't it? When you're not having
Yeah.
crowds imploring fighters on when they've had a good flurry of shots, and that's obviously over 12 rounds. So I mean, especially in like a 6-round fight, you'd imagine it would be a lot easier to score, because your 6 rounds is half the championship distance. So, but I suppose everyone's up to their own perspective on things and how they.
Yeah, and you know what? Look, a lot of these commentators have been boxers themselves, so in their minds, they were a taller fighter or a shorter fighter. So in their minds as well, they're focusing on what kind of boxer or what they would do in that situation, being kind of them. So I kind of understand that maybe I haven't watched any of Matthew Macklin's fights, but maybe his fight style was completely different to mine. So maybe he just didn't like my fight style as much, or maybe he thought that Shannon style was better, or could relate to it better in terms of its success. So it's one of them. The commentators have also got their own kind of bias in terms of their own boxing styles and what they want to see in there as well. There's a lot to it, really, isn't there?
Yeah,
There's a lot to it.
Very subjective, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
But a month out now from your next fight, when sort of do you hit your peak in training? Is it a couple of weeks out before the fight, or are you sort of down to the nitty gritty of training now as you wind down a month out from the fight?
Well, I've been really, really hard training probably the last 3 weeks now, to be honest, probably 3 or 4 weeks. So I did have a bit of time kind of ticking over and just enjoying myself a bit after the last fight. But I kind of feel ahead of myself in terms of my fitness, which is fantastic. And sometimes I'm like, oh, why aren't I doing this as good yet? And I'm thinking, well, okay, you're still this far out from the fight, so I'm trying not to be so harsh on myself. And but yeah, I feel ahead of myself in terms of my fitness. I already feel like I'm there. I feel like I'm as fit as I was going into the Courtenay fight now, like 5 weeks away. So it's just waiting for everything else to kind of come together, really. So
Well,
yeah, I feel good.
Well, Rachel, I want to thank you very much for coming on today and giving your insight into your next fight and obviously the triumph of Fight Camp. Just want to give you the opportunity to shout out your sponsors, anyone you would like to thank particularly for sort of supporting you through this phase of your career, and I suppose who's been there from the start as well.
I just want to thank everyone who's just following me and dropped me a message and kind of said, oh, you know what, you've won a fan in me. Really, really kind messages, and I really appreciate it. I'm really grateful for BCB, my coach Gab Burrows, and all of my sponsors and all of my gym mates and everyone who's been there from day one or just joined kind of the Rachel Ball fan base. So just thank you to everyone. I'm really, really grateful.
And where can we find you on social media as well, if you want to shout out?
On Facebook, I'm at Rachel Pro Boxer. On Instagram, oh God, I got asked this the other day and I forgot as well. That's it. It's at Rachel_Pro Boxer, and then my Twitter is Rachel_Ball_. There we go. We got it out in the end. Sorry.
Perfect. I want to wish you the very best with the rest of the preparation, and God willing, you bring that world title back to the UK.
Oh, I'm telling you, it's got to stay here. It's not getting on a plane. I'm telling you, it's not leaving the country.
All the very best, and enjoy the rest of the weekend.
Thank you very much. Take care.
Yeah, see ya. Bye.
Bye. Bye.